Chakutumaini sina ila damu yake Bwana, sina wema wa kutosha, dhambi zangu kuziosha. Kwake Yesu nasimama, ndiye mama ni salama.
Wittenberg Project Part 2. So one of the things that gives me encouragement, continue from my last piece, is the African church. Lutheranism's presence in Africa. Watching that video kind of illustrates that. Like, seeing them, and to me, don't get me wrong, I don't really consider myself African. Like, that's a continent. Like, I might as well say I'm an earthling. But that's neither here nor there, different conversation. But seeing that them embrace this true confession, right? And as he mentioned, it started off like they were just reciting German liturgy, and that was the cultural reflection they used.
With the advent of the new South Africa and the African leadership, an interesting aspect has come into the church, that we have moved from being strictly, in terms of liturgy and music, strictly like German. We have revamped our singing, mostly in those churches that are led by indigenous pastors, that the singing is really African.
But as more indigenous pastors stepped in, they started bringing out their African heritage and culture into the liturgy. And that's beautiful, because like some people are trying to turn the word multiculturalism into meaning critical race theory or a whole bunch of other jargons. You know what I'm saying? Rather than realizing that it also means just multicultures. You know what I'm saying? Like different cultures, harmonizing. So seeing that really, it moves me, because like I said, and maybe it's weird because, like I said, I don't consider myself African, but to see people, you know what I'm saying, the demographics not be 2% and see other black people expressing themselves in their native culture and that within the Lutheran context.
Still using the same hymnal, but the melodies have changed. You know, we have moved away from the traditional, European melodies and have adopted the African melodies that are sung commonly by churches here. And that has brought another positive identity, that we are Lutheran, but we are Africans. That we can be Lutheran in terms of content and be African in terms of how we express the Lutheran content, the biblical content, without being the same as it's done in European or American.
Really moved me, man, because I see how in America we react to the contemporary worship, cow-wow, however you want to phrase it, style of worship. I see that, I see the pushback. I also hear the comments that people make in regards to how the black church worships. You know what I'm saying? How it's emotionalism, it's over the top, and things of that nature. I'm not just saying Lutherans say this, I'm saying in general. A lot of the white church, I know it's not really a thing, but hey, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of the ivory tower type cats say this, So it in my context, it makes me wonder or kind of think that if I, let's say one day was blessed enough to be called to go to seminary or whatnot, and I did that, I brought my cultural impact, my cultural view on the way we celebrate, I don't think it will be accepted. I'll be honest with you. But I could be wrong, but seeing it play out like that in Africa with these pastors, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And hear me out. I understand why people push back against contemporary worship. I understand they say it's not reverent, it's not the way it was, It's anti the history of how things developed and that nature. But from my personal point of view, I could use those same type arguments in regards to why I would want more, how can I word it? More black church style type music or influence in the liturgy if I was to lead a church or had a church in a predominantly black neighborhood and things of that nature. Because if you study the black church, I hate to keep reiterating this in blogs, but I had a guy ask me just yesterday, I'm from Canada, what is the black church? We don't really have that up here. I get that, you know what I'm saying? I'm here for you, bro. But no, our tradition started because of racism. So black believers broke off from churches, in particular Baptist and Methodist churches, and Richard Allen started the African Methodist Church. Then we had the Baptists, you know what I'm saying, SBC and other things happened. A lot of splits happened because of race, because not wanting to recognize that black people were made in the image of God. But it led to a dynamic to where our churches started. So when we talk about how we sing, how we praise, it's not a pushback against you guys saying that we don't want to do it that way. No, that's how we praise. That's how we've always praised. Once we were able to worship with you guys, they didn't want us around. So that's the way it developed. So for us, it's like, well, why should it? Same reason how those people will say, this is the way it's always been, and let's keep it pure and this and that. The same thing can be said on the other end, like this is the way it's always been in black culture. Or for instance, the African church. This is the way we've always worshiped. This is the way we always expressed ourselves, you know? But that video really just, and then there's people like Kenneth Haynes. He's high, he's high up in the LCMS, you know what I'm saying? Another guy, Pastor Mackay. And Pastor Keith Haynes, put some respect on his name. Seeing guys like that in my denomination also motivates me, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it just helps, you know what I'm saying? I also had this lady comment on one of my other blogs, and she was mentioning how she relates to my views in regards to the community and how it is being a black Lutheran. Comments like that help also, you know what I'm saying? Realizing that, you know, though we're a severe minority, we aren't alone, you know? But anyhow, whatever project.
Being obedient to the scriptures. And it's a church that also prides itself being mission driven. We address issues that are in the society through this word without changing it to be like a makeshift or a tailor-made theology. Scripture speaks to these social issues and has done so over the ages.
You see how they're rocking in the pews? Yo, that's what I'm talking about. It's amazing how, like, though the black community is kind of a lot separate from the African culture, how our expressiveness and how we express ourselves is so similar. Like, that's amazing to me. Like, I couldn't imagine, you know what I'm saying, going to a Lutheran church and seeing the crowd just, you know what I mean, hands up. Yo, another day, that was beautiful. It was beautiful. And just to see it play out, man, like, they was getting it in there, you know what I'm saying? I wish I knew what they were saying, you know? Doesn't matter, I could appreciate a good harmony, you know what I'm saying? I could appreciate a good 1-2. I could appreciate a good little sway with the audience, you know what I mean?
Educated young people, we call them young adults, you know, coming up in the church.
We are old or we are young or whatever, but we do have a church and it is taking care of us. So when people, after all the troubles they went through, of apartheid, of this and that, this all can be washed away. The perspective can be changed. Because the ministry is not a ministry of revenge. It is a ministry of bringing people together. It doesn't matter where they come from originally. doesn't matter how they look like, and it does not matter what is their color. The ministry is of bringing together people and to empower them in the way that we have found empowerment. We can share the same kind of power with the people so they deal with their own challenges which they have. People who are still poor. I always say it is a privilege that we have to do this ministry.
That part was beautiful. How he illustrated and commented on police officer. He illustrated and commented on how the gospel isn't about vengeance. It brings people together. I mean, they have social issues out there in regards to apartheid and just things in general, you know, in regards to racial reconciliation that's needed. But to hear him comment on it and talk about how the gospel and addressing social issues, but the gospel isn't based upon skin color and things of that nature, you know, no Jew nor Greek. Like I said, the African church is something that I really take to heart, man. I really take to heart, and it's a lot I think we from the West can learn from them. Even though I think that the West kind of feels that, you know, they don't learn from nobody. They teach. That's all they care about. You know what I'm saying? Call it what you want to. You know what I'm saying? But I think there's a lot we can learn from them. There's a lot we can learn from them.